Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for watching another one of my shows, William Wallace for America. With me today is a real interesting candidate that's running for office that I've interviewed before. So if you want to get some background information, you go back and check up on the podcast I did with him a while back. But Brandon Trosclair, thank you so much for being on with me today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely proud to be here, man. Appreciate it.
I tell you what, you're somebody that I want more people to get a chance to know you, not just because I like your stories, but because I think more Americans, especially Louisianians, need to hear your story because you're just a good old boy that's doing the right thing, that's trying to help our community. It sounds like, is that right?
I tell people all the time I'm just a good old country boy, and I'm in the grocery business. Tell everybody I'm a grocery guy and just a good old country boy. But I have a passion for customer service, and I have a passion for public service, and not so I'm not a guy that's not going to sit on the sidelines. I want to get involved and help our state and our local government be better than what it was. I want to hand Louisiana off to my kids better than what I inherited.
You know, I just had the opportunity to see you at your grocery store. I'm getting a little bit of a tour. You know, you're not living large. You're living happy. You know, and you got some horses in the back, and I think what I've gotten to see is something that I want to convey to everybody in this interview. Again, not as a way to promote you, but as a way for the American people and the Louisianians to see that we need more regular people, you know, running for office.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, look, I'm not a country club Republican. I'm not part of that crowd. I'm just a good old country boy. I work hard. I was raised by my dad to work hard, and he showed me what hard work is all about. And again, I'm just a regular guy, but I'm passionate about public service. I want to be a public servant and help make Louisiana better than it is for the next generation.
I couldn't help but notice at your grocery store, you know, everybody that walked in, you either knew them, you had something to say, you knew their family,
Right.
you asked everybody how you can help them.
Right.
That's not only customer service for a business, but are you going to be able to give that level of service to the people of Louisiana? There's a lot of people in Louisiana.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, yep.
And, you know, a lot of elected officials, they get elected and you never hear from them or see them again. And I I don't want to say anything bad about any elected official at all whatsoever right now, but the general consensus is that people feel like once somebody gets elected, you never hear from them anymore.
That's correct. Look, after I'm elected to be the next Secretary of State of Louisiana, I want the people to reach out to me, call me, and email me, and text me, whatever the case. But hold me accountable is the most important thing. A lot of times we have the results, and we get the results that we have, William, is because our politicians aren't held accountable. You know, I've talked to state reps and senators around the state, and if they get 3 or 4 phone calls on a bill, that's considered a lot.
Right.
You know, that's really a shame. So, yeah, so I'm just, like I said, I'm just a normal guy. I'm not going to change, haven't changed, and won't change. But anyway, I want the people to hold me accountable. I want to hear from the people. And again, the whole reason I'm running is to put the power back to the people. It's not simply changing on the name of the front door, changing the name that's on anything to do with the State Department from one politician to another politician. It's about transitioning from one politician to the power back to the people. That's what my campaign is all about. It's putting the power back to the people where it belongs.
And I like some of the ways you're going to do that, and I like the thought of that. So throughout this interview, I think people are going to be really intrigued to hear how you plan on doing that. But I want mostly to hear how you're going to be more involved with people and getting them more involved, because I think that's ultimately just as important. But one of my big questions for you that I want to get off my chest right at first is, you know, you got horses in the barn, you got a small, comfortable, happy, piece of earth,
Right,
piece of
right.
God, a piece of God's country. You know,
Right,
you got,
right.
you live right down the road from your office. I mean, you've got it made. You're throwing your hat in the ring, and you're going to wrestle a lot of problems, whether it's election problems or not election problems, whether we have problems or don't have problems. But just the idea of being in public office,
Right.
are you ready for that?
Yeah, I think I'm ready for that. You know, and to your point, you know, I am. The Lord's blessed me and my family tremendously. You know, so by all those standards, I do have it made in the shade. If you want to say that, and we live comfortable. But nobody in authority is doing anything about our election problem here in Louisiana. Nobody in authority is doing anything about it. We've been talking to our leaders in our state for over 2 years now on fixing the mess that we have in elections, And we get empty promise after empty promise after empty promise, and basically at the end, there's no action. And like I told you before, I'm a guy that I'm not going to sit on the sidelines. I'm not going to sit on the sidelines. If I have a problem with something that's being done, I'm going to offer solutions, and I'm going to get involved to try to fix those problems.
Now, there are going to be a lot of people that say there's nothing wrong with our elections. There's going to be a lot of people that say our elections are just fine.
Yeah.
We could look and see, the people who we thought were going to win won, people who, maybe were supposed to win won.
Right.
We hear and again, this is nothing against any elected official or anybody out there. We hear from elected officials all the time that our elections are safe, they're secure, our clerk of courts, everything's the way it is. And you're kind of trying to upset the apple cart a little bit by going against that, saying there are problems and you want to fix them. Do you think that the problems are there and maybe not covered up intentionally, but maybe either complacency has set in with our elections, whoever's been in office, or maybe we've just taken it for granted that everything's safe and secure, but now you're shining a little bit different light?
Well, hopefully after this interview and after the things that I have to say, that people can understand where I'm coming from and understand that we do have massive problems with election integrity right here in Louisiana. But first and foremost, talking about our clerks and our registrar of voters here at the local level, I don't think that they're lazy or they're covering it up or they're doing anything wrong. My clerk does a great job. She's a very, very hard worker, as are many of the clerks.
All of them, yeah, exactly.
Many of the clerks. I've talked to many of the registrar of voters around the state of Louisiana. The problems that I have nothing to do with the registrar of voters and or the clerk. My issues aren't there at all. We have a top-down system in here in Louisiana, and all my problems lay at the foot of the State Department. That's where my problems are.
Okay.
So
what I also like to point out too is I think that's what's happened with our elections, and this is just my analogy. This is coming from my opinion, and I want to get your opinion on that.
Right.
Is I think that there's not enough people getting involved in our elections in our state.
Absolutely.
We don't have enough citizens getting involved, and our clerk of courts are overwhelmed because the amount of bad registrations that are in the system. It's nobody's fault. Let's say it's not the Secretary of State's fault. It's not the clerk of court's fault. Let's say it's nobody's fault other than the fact that we're overwhelmed. Our system has become overwhelmed. Bad registrations. And look, I can attest to this. Because I ran for office 4 years ago,
Right.
and when I ran, and this is coming from me, and I want to get your opinion on this. When I ran for office, I got a list from the Secretary of State's office, and I knocked on doors,
Right.
and I can tell you that at least 10% or more of those houses had registrations where people were either not living there anymore, or you'd get 3 or 4 different last names living at one address. I've heard the stories of 500 people being registered at a homeless shelter that had padlocks on it in New Orleans. You tell the story all the time.
It was shut down for over 3 years, but you still have 588 folks still registered to vote there.
So what I think, and I'll wrap this up to get your opinion, is what's happened is because of laws in Louisiana, because of federal laws, it's kind of handcuffed some of our good clerk of courts, which let's just say all of them are good. It's handcuffed a lot of people to where they can't purge the system.
Well,
is that something?
No, I disagree with you on a few of those fronts.
Absolutely.
So if you want to get down to the root cause of all of our problems, I believe is that the citizens aren't involved. Appeasement and apathy. They're not involved. Like I told you a while ago, when a state representative or a senator gets 3 or 4 phone calls on a bill that's considered a lot, shame on us. Shame on us for not holding our state representatives, our senators, our U.S. Congress. Shame on us for not holding them accountable. Ronald Reagan said, when the electorate do too little, the elected often do way too much. And they've done way too much over the last 75 to 100 years. So I disagree with that aspect of it. In regard to the registration, we have well over 600,000 folks. According to the current law on the books, William, over 600,000 folks that are inactive and ineligible. And they can clean them up. Why can't they clean them up, William? They just purged 38,000 over in Orleans. I filed a lawsuit last week against the State Department to purge and clean the rest of the other 63 parishes up.
Right.
We should have been doing that a long time ago. We the people.
And this is
doing that a long time
And this
ago.
is why I asked you, because when I hear the elected officials speak, they tell us that our elections, our registrations are either good, or the registrations that are bad are because they're bound by state laws or federal laws that don't allow them to purge the rolls in certain ways. And I might be getting some of that wrong, mind you,
Yeah.
and how it's said, but the general consensus is that there's state laws, federal laws that are binding them on what they can do.
Look, I want my political leaders, the politicians, public servers, whatever you want to call them. I want my leaders to be leaders,
Right.
and not to be followers and stand up. You have Secretary of States in other states that have taken the lead and done that. But look, what the law says is if you haven't voted in 2 federal elections or 10 years, you need to be put on the inactive list. We shouldn't have active and inactive list, bar none.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lady that's running for governor, well-known lady. Her son's done lived in 3 different states since he left Louisiana, but he's still on the voter rolls over here. He's done filled out court after court after court. Don't you think that may have to do something with the fact that we don't do registration here at the local level no more?
Hmm.
Read the policies by the State Department. Our registrar of voters are doing early voting now. We outsource our registration to the State Department, who further outsources it to a third-party vendor called Civics in Indiana. That's where our problems are. So I don't think that everybody's not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. Our Secretary of State is guilty. Our State Department is guilty. The people of Louisiana are guilty for not holding them accountable. And again, when I tell you all the solutions to our problems here, next year when I'm the Secretary of State, call me. Demand that I do what I said I was going to do. Hold me accountable. I want the people to hold me accountable. We need to hold all of our elected officials more accountable. But we're far from having the best elections in the country, or according to the Heritage Foundation, our politicians are running around Louisiana says we have the 6 best elections in the country. I'm going to tell you flat out that no, we don't. I think we have the worst. Why do I think we have the worst? We're the only state in the country that you can't audit our elections.
Now,
How unacceptable is that, William?
That
we
took-
can't even audit our elections here in Louisiana.
we cannot audit our own election.